Okay, so when I sat down to prepare on Shabbos, when it was quiet for a few minutes, I prepared, I read over the whole lesson, and when I finished, I realized that I read over the wrong week. I read over last week, what they read in the shul this Shabbos, which was gracious, right? The creation of the world. And I was like, oh no, okay, let me read the next one. And I read the next one. But it turns out that I'm actually going to share with you Parshas Bereshit. First of all, because it starts off the whole Torah. And Renee, I hope you didn't join your Rebbitzins class last week, because then you're going to be, you did? Oh no, it's okay. Okay, so you're going to hear it again, I suppose. How likely is that? Okay, so I just really like the lesson that this Parshas Bereshit brought out, and I thought it's a beautiful way to start off the year, and it really is the very beginning of the Torah. And so I'll give you 2 minutes of Parshas Nayach, and then I'm going to go to Parshas Bereshit. So in 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you something about Parshas Nayach, which is also super applicable, especially to people like me, and I'm sure all of us at different times. As you know, Parshas Nayach speaks about the ark, right? With the animals going onto the ark before the Mabul, the flood. And they were commanded, Noah was commanded to bring the animals onto the ark. So he was told to bring a pair of impure animals and 7 pairs of pure animals. And the famous question that comes up is that instead of saying, there's two words in Hebrew, there's kosher and tameh, and instead, which means impure. Tameh means impure. So like a lion and a tiger, all the ones that are impure, they only needed to bring 2 of, or 1 pair. So the question was, the words that was used in the Torah didn't say the impure animals. It said the animals that are not pure. It makes it like it gave the whole twist around description. So the famous question is, why did the Torah use those words? It could have just said the impure animals. Why did it use the word the animals that are not pure? It's a lot of extra letters, and the Torah is very concise. Every letter, every word, every period, every little crown on top is for a specific reason. So obviously the fact that the Torah uses this longer version of a word is to teach us a lesson. And the lesson we learned from this phrase is to always watch how we speak, to always speak kindly, to try to think of the more positive way to say things, and to be careful with our speech because it is so powerful, the words that we use. That's a beautiful lesson. Then it also says, but in the rest of the parts of the Torah, you'll notice that it uses the word impure many times. So why would it say the words impure in some places, and then in other places it would use a longer terminology? So the answer is because in the places where it's talking about laws, it's very to the point. This is how it is. This is the truth. This is an impure animal. This is what you're allowed to eat. This is what you're not allowed to eat. It's like boom, 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 boom. So you can be clear and you know what needs to be done. As opposed to, hey, Charlotte, as opposed to when it's like a story and it's talking about the flood and all different things like that, then it can use the liberty to use a more positive word, so we can learn about our language from that. So the lesson that was brought out from here is that it's very important to tell the truth, and it's very important to speak to the point, and be direct and say the truth. You're not allowed to lie according to the Torah. Lying is an avera, right? You have to always speak the truth. But it's also important to be cognizant of those around you and be sensitive to those around you. So just like in the Torah, at some point, it's important. Say it as it is. Say that it's an impure animal. On the other hand, at other points in time, use a little bit of a different terminology. So the lesson to us is never change your standards for other people. Don't change what you do. But sometimes when you're in certain situations or around certain people, you don't need to say everything. You don't need to say it so strongly. Or sometimes it doesn't need to be said at all. So I really like that lesson because Label always tells me, I know you always have to say the truth, but you don't have to say all the truth all the time, because I always just say everything. But I also thought that it's really an important lesson because even within Judaism, if I strongly believe that it's really important to dress modestly, and I will never tell someone you don't need to dress modestly because that isn't necessarily true. I won't tell someone it's not important, I won't say any of those things. But if I know that that person's not ready to hear it, is not looking to hear it, is waiting to be welcomed, I probably won't choose that time to tell them, you know, maybe you should change your clothes, or maybe you shouldn't wear that. It's not a matter of not saying things. It's a matter, because the most important thing in the Torah is being respectful of other people and being a mensch and treating other people kindly. So yes, say what you mean and mean what you say. But we learn from Parshas Nayach that there are some times that you need to look at your surroundings and address a situation with more sensitivity. I thought that was a nice applicable lesson. So that was Parshas Nayach in a super little nutshell. I'm going to put that aside, and now we're going to go backwards to Parshas Bereshis, to the beginning of time. So are you all with me? Wave your hands if you're with me. Good. Oh, that was cute. Good job. Okay. All right. So this week's Torah portion. Here, I'm gonna share the screen so you can all look along with me. A question, feel free to unmute yourself as we go along, and I will switch the slides as we go. All right, so we're going to use the story of the creation of the world to talk about kind of like our purpose in the world. Why are we even here? What are we doing? What's the point? Things like that. And it really connects beautifully. So the world was created when Hashem decided that he needed a world, and he used his speech to create the world, right? Before the world was created, there was nothing. I was trying to explain this to my Hebrew school students on Sunday, what nothing means. There was absolutely nothing. And Hashem decided that he wanted there to be a world, and he created it. The first day of creation, if you know what was created on the first day, please share it with us. Anybody know?
Light and dark.
Light. Exactly. Light and there was light, the famous word, and there, let there be light. So yes, the first thing that Hashem created was light and dark. Not the sun and the moon, that was created a few days later, but the concept of light and dark. Okay, let's look at text 1. Here we go. Vayemer Elokim yihi or, vayihi or. And Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. So the first thing of anything is a very big deal. A child's first steps, a person's first job, your first day at school, all these kinds of firsts. The first of anything is always a monumental moment, right? And we always put more effort into the first of anything. And Judaism also puts a lot of emphasis on the first. You have a firstborn son. If you're from a certain tribe, then you have what they call Pidyon Haben. You have, I'm not sure how to translate that when you, oops, I don't know whose phone that was. I'm just going to mute you all so that it doesn't ring out loud. The first child is the firstborn of a son of a family that's not a Shevet Levi or Kohen. They do something called the Pidyon Haben, only if it's the first, right? Then you have, you give the first fruits to the Kohen. There's a lot of firsts that we put emphasis on in Judaism. So creation is a pretty big deal when the whole world was created, and every aspect of creation was done with a lot of intention. And nothing happened because it just appeared. Hashem was very intent and specific on how he created the world. So the fact that light was the first thing that was created is a pretty big deal. There must be a reason for it. Hashem could have created animals first. He could have created water first. He could have created anything first, but light was the first thing that was created. So why was light the first thing that was created? Okay, so we can ask that question. What does light do? Light allows us to see each other. Light allows us to interact with each other. It allows us to be productive. I mean, if we were in darkness, we can't do anything. Light it shines a light on everything else. It enables us to be, right? It also helps the plant and the animals stay alive, because the whole plant kingdom exists only because of the sunlight, which keeps it alive. So everything pretty much relies on light. And if you look at text 2, what is the significance of light as the first of God's creation? Here it tells us, and with the sweetness of the produce of the sun and with the sweetness of the moon's yield. Here, Moshe was actually blessing the Jewish people, and he was talking here about the benefits that light brings to people, the sun and the moon. Let's look at text 2a. It explains this a little bit.
But they weren't created yet.
True. It's the sun and the moon were not created yet. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu is talking about the aspects of light, and he's connecting it to the sun and the moon. But sun and the moon were not created yet. Hold on, let me turn this. Let me turn slide. No. Hold on. I wanted you to see it in a slideshow version, but it's not working. Next one, text 2b. Here we go. And with the sweetness of the produce of the sun, for Joseph's land was exposed to the sun, which sweetened its fruit. So if you actually look at the concept of light compared to everything else, compared to the vegetables, compared to the fish, compared to the sun and the moon, the light is intangible, the light's existence. You can't hold it. It's not something on its own, but it illuminates everything else, right? So light is really there to shine on everything else. If nothing else was there, light doesn't really have that much of a purpose. So if that's the case, it makes our question even stronger. So you're saying that the firsts are so important, and you're saying that whenever we choose something to do the first, it must be, something important. Hashem chose to create light first, but light is not really useful in and of itself. It seems to be very much there to help everything else. So why would light be chosen to be the first thing that was created? Here we go. Look at text number 3. Another text that's going to show us why the creation of light seems to be extra, unnecessary, especially in the beginning. Why? It actually tells us that with the light that the Holy One, blessed be He, created on the first day, it wasn't a regular light that was created on the first day. It wasn't like the sun shining. It was such a strong, intense light that a person would be able to peer from one end of the world to the other. It was so intense. It was so intense that, continue the text and see what it says. Hashem concealed it. He hid it. For whom did He conceal it? For the righteous people in the future. That means that this light that was created, the original light, was not a physical light. It was an energy. It was a spirituality. It was a godliness. And it was so strong, this godliness, that Hashem hid it afterwards. It was too much. Why create it? And why create it on the first day if you're going to cover it up afterwards? What's the point of all that? Okay, everybody with me so far? Charlotte, are you with us? I said hi, but you weren't connected yet. Can you hear us now? Okay, good. Okay, so that's where we leave off from the part 1. And let's see here what the purpose of this light was and what we can learn from it in our daily lives. If it looks like I'm not looking at you, I'm just looking at the screen. So excuse me for my side profile here. Okay, so there's this famous book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if you've heard of it. It was, I see a lot of nods. Okay, Lois is like, yeah, I've read that one. Written by Stephen Covey, however you say it. And it's become a pretty famous book of literature that he wrote. And he has a famous saying, which very much is going to connect to what we're about to talk about. His saying said, begin with the end in mind. He has this in his book. And he explains, and obviously it's sourced in Tyra, that in order for you to do a job well, you need to be working towards a goal. And it's interesting because as a teacher, I taught for, let's say, a bunch of years. And whenever I would sit down to prepare for a lesson, I would kind of know what I wanted to cover. All right, I'm going to cover these 2 chapters or whatever. But in the later years, when I did more training and more classes, and one of the things they said was, you need to first have all your goals written out for the students. That's the only way you're going to be able to reach those goals. If you know what goals you want your students to reach, then as you teach, you will make sure to hit those goals. And even though it sounds so simple, it really was kind of like a shift for me. Instead of just going, and then when I'm done the chapter, I'll make a test up based on what I taught them. Instead, this is the other way around. You make the test up first. You make your goal up first so you know what it is that you want to reach, and then you reach towards it. So if you are goal-oriented, then everything you do will be ultimately heading you towards that goal. One second, looks like someone just posted something. Just checking that's not a question, and I do not know how to get to it. Yes. Somebody just asked the question, is it the same thing as Saif Ma'aseh b'machshava tchila? that it's a Hebrew phrase, which means that your end action was your original thought, which, yeah, your end result is what you wanted, should be where you wanted to get to begin with. You should be aiming towards there. That's where you're heading. Okay. Now let's look at text 4 and let's see. So obviously, okay, this is another example. In the way, it comes from the Talmud, this quote, and it says, in the ways of the world, an earthly king who builds a castle does not do so from his own knowledge, but rather from the knowledge of an architect. The architect does not build from his own knowledge, but rather he has scrolls and books and knows how to make rooms and doorways. So too, Hashem gazed in the Torah and created the world. So Hashem also had a plan. He didn't just, oh, let me have light, and what's the opposite of light? Dark. Let me make dark. Hashem had a specific plan of how he wanted this world to look and how he was going to create it. That he had a vision, and he made that vision. So let's look here. We'll see the same idea actually in a famous prayer that we say every Friday night. We sing every Friday night. The part of the Lecha Dodi song. Are you all familiar with that? The welcoming to the angels. You hear it a lot in Shul. And here is a phrase from this prayer. Here we go. Here we go. Come, let us welcome the Shabbos, for it is a source of blessing. From the beginning, from aforetime it was chosen, last in creation, but first in God's thought. So what does this mean? It's the saying that although Shabbos is the last day of the week and it came last in the line of the time of creation, it's really the greatest day in the week, right? It came last in the order, but it's the first in priority because the whole week we're really preparing for Shabbos and setting up for Shabbos. It could also mean, this whole concept, that the final goal of Hashem's action was in his first thoughts. So let's see a little bit more how this connects to the concept of light. But so far, what concept we just added is that here's a pretty picture of Shabbos right here. When Hashem started the creation with an end goal in mind, when we forethink and act deliberately, we are emulating God. That's pretty interesting, because just anytime we do certain behaviors, we are emulating Hashem. And when Hashem created the world, he did it in this fashion. And whenever we behave this way, we are actually emulating God, which is amazing. And it makes us more productive people, more focused people, and happier people. We're working towards something. We know where we're going. We know what we're doing. We know where we're heading. And this thought process is on every level of our lives. It's in our, let's say, even simply our food habits. All right, this is my goal. This is what kind of eating. I would like to be a healthy eater. I would like to have a healthy body. Then every food choice you make, hopefully, is leading towards that goal. Oh, I want to have a healthy body. Is this going to help me have a healthy body? And you're working towards that. In your relationships with people, if you know what you want your end result to be, you work towards it. I want to have a good relationship with X, Y, and with this person, and this person. Oh, you want to have a good relationship? So there are certain things you're going to need to do. And you're going to behave that way so that you have that relationship that you want. And the same thing goes in our spiritual lives, mainly in our spiritual lives, in our service to God. And I'll explain further if you're confused. So let's move a little bit ahead. Look at text number 6. Come and let us calculate the accounts of the world, the financial loss incurred by the fulfillment of mitzvah in contrast to its reward, and the reward for committing a transgression, the pleasure and gain received in contrast to the loss that it entails. So this is a slight, here, hold on. Okay, so what this Talmudic passage is giving us is telling us like a lens that we can kind of look at our lives, kind of like a goal. So when you're making choices or you're living your life, you look at it from the same lens the whole time. Is this behavior going to bring me towards my goal, or is it not? Am I getting closer to God from this behavior, or am I not? Is this behavior going to give me short-term pleasure and then it's not really leading me towards my goal? Or is it going to be a little difficult, but in the long run, I'm getting to my goal? Those are all questions that we kind of subconsciously ask ourselves as we go throughout our day and go throughout our lives. Am I reaching my goal? Am I connecting more to God? And am I becoming the best Jew, the best person, the best image of Hashem that I can be? Okay. Look at the next one. There's actually a Hebrew phrase called, I don't know if it spoke about it yet or if it's coming up, called Cheshbon HaNefesh. Yeah, it's called an accounting of the soul. And Judaism actually has many times throughout the year that we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to sit down and be like, where am I coming from? Where am I going? For example, birthdays. Birthdays are a big day that you're supposed to have a soul searching. You're supposed to have a cheshbon hanefesh. You're supposed to take an accounting of your soul. Did I do more of this year? Did I do less of this? Do I want to do more of this? Do I want to do less of this? Birthdays are very big on that. Rosh Hashanah, right? Before Rosh Hashanah, we spend the whole month before or weeks before thinking about how was my year last year? How do I want my year to be in the future? There's a lot of these accountings throughout the cycle of Judaism that allows us to kind of keep in mind where our goal is as Jews, as people. Okay. There's a story. There's a picture. The Jewish calendar is a cycle of activity and pauses for reflection. A whole and proper accounting helps guide us towards an end purpose. So we're constantly reflecting and we're constantly pausing and checking in on ourselves. And if we know what it is we want from ourselves, then we can properly direct ourselves. Okay, now back to the original question. Are we back at the original question? I don't know, let's see. Okay, so first of all, anybody venture to guess, what do we mean when we're talking about the light that was created on the first day? So Renee, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah. Wait, where are you?
Come on. Oh, here we go. Well, light, what I learned about that is that it's really the intention with which you do everything. It's that spark. It's the initial thing is light. So it's intention. So no matter what action you take, before you take that action, you have to have that intention being light.
Okay, right. So that's a true aspect. Now take it back a step and tell me from Hashem's perspective, when he created the world, when we talk about the light that he created, what is this light that he created?
It's the intention after he created all the other things, it was the intention that those things had.
What's Hashem's intention? What was Hashem's intention in creating the world?
Oh, that's a good question.
Was it to bring godliness into the world?
Yes, exactly. It was to bring light into the world, right? To bring godliness into the world and to make the world one of light and to reveal the light in everything. So that's all the light that we're talking about. The light that Hashem had in mind when he created the world, right? The purpose of his creation. What he created first is the godliness and the light that is in everything. Because that's why Hashem created the world. He didn't need a world. He created a world so that we can reveal this beautiful light, so that we can bring this light more into the world. That was his intention. Now, Renee, your point is true as well, and we're going to get to that in a second. Right. They all connect. So when we talk about the light, we are referring to Hashem's presence, Hashem's shining light, basically. And the power, the world where Hashem's light is hidden is the darkness that we talk about. So day one, Hashem created his purpose. He created his essence, which was infused into the world. And he also created the fact that his essence is often hidden. That's the darkness that we're talking about. So we're not really talking about light and dark as you see it with your eyes. That was created with the sun, moon, stars, and a few days later. This was more the spiritual aspect of it. Okay, so let's read text number 7. Anybody have good eyes and want to read it on the screen for me? I'm just going to drink water for a second meanwhile. Anybody? Or is it not showing up big?
No, I see it.
You see it? Do you want to read it out loud for us?
The ultimate purpose of the creation is this lowest world, for such was his blessed will that he shall have satisfaction when the ungodly perception is subdued and the darkness is turned to light, so that the divine light shall shine forth in the place of the darkness and ungodliness throughout this world with more intensity than its effulgence in the higher worlds.
So that basically sums up what we said before, which is that the purpose of creation, why did Hashem create the world? Why do we exist in this world? Why are we even here? Is for us to turn the darkness into light, which periods in history is much harder than others. Some periods in our life is harder than others. But that's our ultimate goal: turn the darkness into light, make this world a better place, make ourselves a better people, and make those around us as well. Bring the light out, right? And it's in everything. And that's going to go to what Renee said in a minute. But a good example of this is, the Wizard of Oz. Are you familiar with that? So, Lois, you're not familiar with the Wizard of Oz? Oh, yeah, you are. Okay. So I'm not so familiar with it, but I get the general storyline. But apparently there's this fearsome and awesome wizard or something, and he appears at it as a big ghostly head and a booming voice and fire and smoke and all kinds of stuff like that. And later on, the character kind of pulls back a curtain and shows that he is nothing more than some fancy special effects. Is that true? You know what I'm talking about? Yes. Okay, it's true. So behind all the pillar and smoke is just an ordinary little man. And this job that we have in this world is exactly the opposite of what Dorothy did. She pushed aside all the lights and the smoke and the stuff and found a little guy. We are taking the little guy and the things that look so simple, and we're pulling away the curtain and revealing that shining light that's behind it and inside of it and all around it. Okay, now let's go back to our initial question. What does this have to do with the order that Hashem created the world, and why, and how can we relate it to our lives? So looking here. Oh, here's a little, again, visual. What was God's purpose in creating the world? In every situation we're in, a reflection of the purpose. Okay, so we have 2 points. So Hashem created the world, like we said, by revealing the purpose of creation. This way, everything that follows after his purpose is, like Renee said, has that original intent in it, right? So that every creation that he created afterwards is created with that purpose in mind. So that is why light had to be created on day one. Because just like we said, if you want to get to your goal, you need to know your goal. Hashem created his goal, the light and the godliness and the spirituality in this world first, so that everything afterwards is working towards that goal. So that's why Hashem created the light first. Now, we did also say that the light was very short-lived. Remember, Hashem hid it afterwards? We'll get to that in a second, how that connects. So light was the first creation, and it served as a constant reminder to the entire world as to what is the ultimate purpose of our creation. Why was the world even created? So let's look at the next text and see. This explains why light was created on the first day, before any other creation. It is because light is the purpose with which God prefaced the creation of the world. With his first utterance, let there be light. And it means that everything that is about to be created, the world in all its details, and all of the following creations will be transformed into light. So again, when you're about to start a big project, when you're about to do something, you develop a clear sense of purpose. And then you make sure that every detail along the way contributes to your grand vision so your project is finished properly. When Hashem created the world, he did exactly the same thing by first revealing that amazing light. Here's my purpose, everyone. This is why I'm creating the world. Do you see this beautiful light? Do you see this godliness? Do you see the spirituality? Do you see God? Excellent. Now I'm going to take it away a little bit and create the rest of the world. Now, what is this taking away a little bit teach us? Let's look at the next text. Okay, it actually tells us that every time that you see the phrase in the Torah, and it was good, the phrase good, tov, good, it's referring to the light. So you know how throughout the whole creation they say, and Hashem revealed whatever on day one, and it was good. It's referring to the light that Hashem created, and how in every single day of creation, a little bit of this light was infused. But I don't want to bring too many details in because they can get a little bit much. So let's move on. I'm going to actually skim right over here. This look a bit of a long one. Okay, so there's 2 parts here. We're left with one question. We answered our first question. We're left with a second question, right? So we already said that Hashem created his goal first. That's beautiful. But now our question is that, okay, you showed us the beautiful light, but then every other day afterwards, we just had a little bit of a hint of your light. You kind of took it away, and you just gave us a little glimmer of this light for the rest of the creation. It's only like beneath the surface. So why did you do that? Like, what was the point? If it's like the purpose, then show us the whole thing the whole time. Why did you show us the purpose of creation and then hide it away? And the answer is simply, if you think about, let's say you think about a project you're doing, right? You think about your goal. At first, you discuss your goal. This is what I want my project to look at. But afterwards, you kind of need to put that aside and work on the details, because otherwise you can't get to the goal, right? You can't have the goal in front of your nose like this the whole time, because then you can't figure anything else out. So you think of the big picture, and then you kind of shelf it a little bit as you work towards it. Okay, so it's the same thing here. We have our main purpose in life. We have our main goal. We have, at the same time, you have to also, in order to get there, you have to kind of put it a little bit on the side and then work towards it. Let's look here. This is a very long quote. Anybody in the mood of reading it out loud for us?
I'll read it.
I'm assuming that's black screen Corey.
Yeah,
Yes?
I'm the black. Yes.
Okay, go.
The purpose of any action, say for example, that of a person, can be expressed in two ways. A, as revealed in the mind and intent of the actor as a primary and overarching sense of purpose before the act itself and in its early stages. B, during the act itself, as the person perceives the overall purpose of every specific thing he does, so that they are all in accord with their purpose and their goal. Throughout the duration of the act, the purpose is not being conveyed as openly or to the same extent as it was before the act. Similarly, the supernal purpose of creation, signified by the light, quote, that was created on the first day, unquote, has two levels. A, the level of the light itself, which is mentioned explicitly in the Torah, and God saw the light, that it was good. That is the light itself that was manifest on the first day and the first utterance before every other creation in the world as their ultimate purpose. B, a ray and reflection of that light was conveyed in each successive utterance and creation. It is this godly light that enables these creations to align with and achieve their purpose, to transform creation into light. Of this light and purpose, it was said, and God saw that it was good, meaning that it was light, but merely an allusion to it that is hidden and not as fully revealed as it was on the first day.
Okay, so basically what Corey just did was you took the concept of the light and the two levels of it and applied it towards what we were saying. There's two types, as it was explained pretty clearly here. We have the overarching one, and then we have the one that it takes over your thoughts. It's the ultimate purpose. And then the rays of light, which is in every single day, and it aligns with our purpose, but it's a little bit more subtle. So how does this relate to us, and what does this mean in our daily lives? We have to have our ultimate goal in our minds, and we often take the time to stop and think and to look into it. What is our purpose? Why are we here? Why did Hashem create me? Am I doing what I'm meant to do? On the other hand, we can't spend all of our time analyzing and philosophizing about our ultimate purpose, right? Because you can't live like that. So we have to take certain times in our day or in our week or in our year, stop, think, why am I here? What kind of person do I want to be? Am I working towards that goal? Okay, this is who I want to be, and this is the kind of connection to God I want to have. Put it right there, and then we work towards it. So, for example, if you let's say someone came to you for help, they came asking you for charity, and you're still thinking about your ultimate purpose. They're standing in front of you, they're so hungry, they just want a meal, and in the meantime, you're like, oh, isn't this beautiful? I get to give charity. This is what Hashem wanted for me. He wants me to share what I have with other people. I'm like, I just want the food, you know? Or your spouse needs help or something, and instead you're sitting and just being like, wow, I can't believe we're married for so long and we're so committed to each other. And you're thinking about the whole beauty underneath it, but topless. How do you translate the word topless? But in reality, you actually need to do what you got to do.
Purpose, yeah, topless.
Like the purpose for right now, right? So I feel like what I really liked about this is that oftentimes with whatever it is we're doing, it's very easy for us to lose focus when things get difficult or tricky or not pleasant and things like on a simple level, not simple, but on a personal level. Let's say with my teaching my students, right? Don't tell this to Hannah because I teach her daughters. But I love teaching, and there's a reason I went into this field. But many times it's a lot of preparation and it's hard work. And I often turn around and I'm like, why am I doing this again? Why every night I put my kids to bed and I'm preparing my lesson? Like I'm not sure. Is this even worth it? And those are the moments that I need to stop and tell myself, why did you take this job? Why do you love teaching? What is it that you, and I remind myself, I love to give over a love for Tyra and a love for Hashem, and I love to educate, and I do love dealing with these girls. And when I remind myself of that, and I like my ultimate purpose, so to speak, then I can get back into doing the nitty gritty. And I feel like that goes along with all of us in our personal lives, in our spiritual lives, and everything. Sometimes when we just go, and we forget to think about why we're there, what we want, what we're doing, how we feel, we just kind of lose it. We need to take those moments to look into ourselves and to say, is that light there? Am I reaching for my ultimate light? Is that ultimate light shining on my actions? Am I happy with where I'm going? Am I heading in the right direction? Oh, I'm not. I need to change this. I need to change that. Okay. Then you put it aside and then you keep on going. And that's how we can reach our goal of being the best people. We can be the best friends, the best family, the best Jew, the best, all those things is by stopping, looking at our ultimate light and seeing if it is infusing our everyday behavior. Is this light, like Renee said, is it shining an intent on our every action? Is it giving our every behaviors an intent and a motivation and a reason? If the answer to that is yes, then good. It means you're working towards a goal and towards your goal. So the lesson we learned from the Parsha of Bereshit and from how Hashem created the world is that Hashem created the world with a purpose, and every part of his creation was infused with that purpose. We live our lives with a purpose, and every one of our actions and behaviors should be infused with that purpose on a spiritual level, a personal level, on an everything level. So I want to end off with wishing you all a lovely week. May your week be infused with purpose. I feel like when it's infused with purpose, it's almost automatically infused with joy. Because when you know where you're going and why you're doing it, and you feel like you're working towards something, you feel joyful about it. When you can't figure out why am I even bothering, it's really hard to be joyful about it. So for yourself and for your happiness and for your mindset, take the time, take a moment and pause and look at that light and check if it's there. So again, so lovely to see all of you ladies.